I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I have lots of different episodes, lots of different series. It's not just all on composition and rhetoric. And take care. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Any questions, let me know. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone, Walter Bound here. I just finished my lunch. So nice day. So if you hear the wind and the leaves rustle, there's a reason. So talking about Charlotte Perkins Gilman and her very famous and haunting and disturbing yellow wallpaper. Now, she was known for works of nonfiction, like Man-Made World in 1911, where she contrasted the competitiveness and aggressiveness of men with women. She published in 1923, His Religion and Hers, where she said that when women start influencing theology, then death and punishment will not be so central. She was an artist and a governess, and she got married. And then in 1888, she was convinced her marriage threatened her sanity. So, if you're reading, the Yellow Wallpaper, you see definite themes here, right? This Women in Economics earned her celebrity, which is considered a feminist manifesto. Unfortunately, we don't study these works perhaps as well as we should in history, and it's generally only in her fiction that we see this ardent feminist, first-wave feminist. I guess I can call her a first-wave feminist. Okay, so let's talk about the story. Here we have a woman who is writing in a tone as if it's in her diary. And it's personal, it's direct. She doesn't expect really anyone to read this. That's why the tone is so confessional. The paragraphing, it's not long, giant paragraphs. It reads very easily, and it's very direct. She reveals a lot of her internal suffering, and we see her slowly both going mad, losing her sanity, but really what she's doing is getting herself out of the wallpaper that she feels imprisoned. We see a lot of themes here. Story of an Hour, Kate Chopin, who wrote, there was 2 years in between these two stories, about a woman imprisoned in a room. There's only a window that she can look at. Jane Eyre, a long time ago, crazy woman in the attic. So women imprisoned in cages. It's not just Borat 2, where he jokes around women in cages, right? Unfortunately, there's still that idea out there that women should just be caged and, listen to your man who knows better. Because in this story, it's a doctor, and I know better, and she wants to obey her husband. She wants to obey and appease him. But at the same time, he has no idea of what she really wants, and she becomes so familiar to this room, she becomes a part of the room. And the yellow wallpaper, in a very gothic sense, is personified in this creepy toadstool, the synesthesia, where the wallpaper has an odor, has a taste, and she's trying to free the woman from the wallpaper. It's wallpaper she hates, all right? She has no control over her life. It's the husband who is constantly determining what's good for her. And we can't have friends over. And at a certain point, she's so isolated from the outside world, she doesn't want anyone. She doesn't want her own daughter to stay with her. She just wants to free herself. And really all women, because at the end of the story she says there's a great many women out there with these strange heads in this wallpaper who are trying to be free, and she constantly rips the wallpaper off the walls in order to free herself from the bondage. And there's this key at the end, right? And some students get a little confused by what happens at the end. The husband comes home, he can't get in. She says there's this key under a plantain leaf. We could probably do a little analysis of that if we had time about nature and the key. And keys are so essential in literature that will unlock so many things. And but but she doesn't need the key. He might need the key because when he comes in and sees exactly just how crazed and perhaps free his wife has become of what she has done to the room, which had been a nursery, right? Which is, you know, perhaps, she never wanted children, but it was an obligation to have children in the 19th century, even in 1950, or, if you've seen Mad Men or any kind of thing where, women had, certain duties that they had to perform, and it was up to the men to dictate what a woman could do, couldn't do, and he faints at the end of the story, very melodramatically, but this is, 19th century, end of 19th century, and walks right over him, right? Freeing herself, liberating herself. Now, it's tragic because at the end, 1934, she divorces her husband, remarries, and is dying of breast cancer in 1934, and she commits suicide with chloroform. And it's sort of like a Virginia Woolf story where you have a woman who wants to write, who's being criticized for writing. She doesn't want anyone to see her writing. She has a room of her own, like Virginia Woolf advocated for women. But like Virginia Woolf, being a woman in a society that does not respect women, does not respect women artists, is that the way to free oneself? I mean, that's a painful takeaway. And for the author here, Gilman, it was. I would think I would have to read a little bit more on it, but if it's like a mercy, I'd rather die like a mercy killing or like euthanasia than suffer the effects of breast cancer. But she mentions suicide in the story. She mentions a rope. All these things, like we think that maybe she's going to commit suicide, and there's all these things that make us think that she's going to do some horrible things or jump out the window. But ultimately, tearing off the wallpaper and the ravages of what childhood has done to this nursery, and she recognizes that, she is able to step over her husband and get out. Right? So is the takeaway, women, take command. Don't always kowtow and obey. And if you don't like the wallpaper or you want to stay downstairs, just because your husband's a doctor doesn't mean he knows what is really going on with you. This is before modern psychology. It was before we really understood the human mind. I'm trying to think where William James came out. Really, the first American psychologist. And even today, we still suffer with this idea that someone who's mentally unstable, that's very different than someone who has like heart trouble, because that's, you can't help that, right? High blood pressure. But someone who's mentally unstable, oh, there's something wrong with you. Well, no, it's there's something wrong, and it's either societal, right? That she is like a prisoner in a society that does not value her. She couldn't even vote yet. That didn't come until 1919, and that basically passed by one vote by I think a Tennessee senator, right? So when women's rights were put to the vote with the states, it just passed. It just passed. So the story has a lot to tell us about women. The story fits in well with The Story of an Hour, The Chrysanthemums by John Steinbeck, The Awakening, Kate Chopin, also Rose for Emily, Gothic horror story by William Faulkner, and even a lot of Flannery O'Connor. So there's a lot of stories here that speak to women liberation. Alice Walker has some really good stuff. So take care. Hopefully this has helped you. And keep reading. Bye.